Hello, everybody, and thank you for listening to this episode of Not Your Average Tea Time. I'm your host, Tabaria, joined by your other host, Christian. And we'll start with some news from around the league, Christian. So, I don't know if you saw this, but your boy Jay Glazer caused quite a bit of stir by saying, keep your eyes on the Deshaun Watson front. Do you think he gets traded? And if he does, why is it to the Eagles?
I still don't. I still don't see it happening, man. I still don't. I still think it's a little bit too much of a risky situation for any team in the NFL to sacrifice any type of draft capital, especially early on. The the Houston Texans. I believe they declined an offer for a number one, a number two, and a number three, and so supposedly that offer or what they're asking for, the asking price has fallen down a little bit, especially as of late. But to know that they've already declined that type of offer, and then the last couple of months we really haven't heard anything new about the Deshaun Watson case. So in my eyes, it's still looking like a pretty big risk. So I honestly don't think he gets traded by the end of the year. I still think by December, January, we're still talking about Deshaun Watson as a member of the Houston Texans as a possibility of him still being traded. But I don't think the front runner is the Philadelphia Eagles, despite, and this is no inside information from me, of course, but I think the Miami Dolphins still make the most sense. So if he were to be traded, I got to think, especially now with Tua being down, and I know it doesn't seem like it might be that too long of an absence for Tua, but I think that it just makes more and more sense. It seems like as time goes on, if a team were to pull the trigger, I think it's the Miami Dolphins. Philadelphia Eagles, it does make sense, especially, this was a little bit of a disappointing performance last week against the Dallas Cowboys for Jalen Hurts, but I still think there's something there. I'll go on record and say I am a Jalen Hurts believer. I think he could be a franchise quarterback. I don't envision him being a quarterback at the level of, let's say, a Dak Prescott or somebody that you could make an argument for being a top 5, top 7, top 10 even quarterback in the NFL. I don't know if Jalen Hurts will ever get to that level like Deshaun Watson already has, to be quite frank. But I don't know if Deshaun Watson takes Philadelphia to that next level. And I know once you have the quarterback, it's so much easier to build your team around that player and have a contender in the NFL. But I think if you put Deshaun Watson on the Miami Dolphins, then you start looking at them, then you start thinking of them differently than you do currently, especially now with Tua being down. I don't think there's much of a difference between Tua and Jacoby Brissett, but I think the jury is still out for Jalen Hurts. Let's see what he has to prove in the NFL. And you could say the same, obviously, for Tua. They've both been in the league for the same amount of years, the same amount of time. But, now you're dealing with injury. He has the injury history. Mm-hmm. And I think Deshaun Watson, the way the Miami Dolphins are currently built, he can take them over the top, make them a true contender. I don't think if you throw Deshaun Watson in Philadelphia, they're automatically a contender.
Yeah, I see what you're saying about Deshaun Watson. It doesn't make them a contender right away. But I think that because Jay Glazer reported that the Texans have softened their stance, the Eagles or any team who trades for Deshaun Watson won't have to give up the whole farm in order to get him. So I think that's going to soften the blow, and it could make whichever one of those teams he goes to a better contender than they are right now. And I agree with you on the Jalen Hurts front, because watching that game against Dallas last Monday, they made a point that he's only started 7 games in the NFL. For all intents and purposes, he's still a rookie. Like, he hasn't played 16 games. He doesn't have the experience that
exactly
the other rookie quarterbacks are going to get. But it'll be interesting to see how that plays out, if it happens this year at all. I know with Tua going down, that kind of boosted Miami's odds a bit. And he wasn't playing on like an all-star level when he was in there. So we'll see how that shapes out. Moving on to the Baltimore Ravens. They've activated Rashad Bateman, and it looks like he might make his debut this week for the Ravens, and the NFL has reinstated wide receiver Josh Gordon, and he has signed with the Kansas City Chiefs. My question to you is, which one of those wide receivers has the better season this year?
Remind me who Rashad Bateman is again?
Well, yeah, that was a good one. Well, I'll remind the people in case they forgot. Rashad Bateman was the first round pick by the Baltimore Ravens. They took him, and then he hurt his groin, I believe, during training camp preseason, somewhere in there. So he hasn't really played. He hasn't really flashed, but he's going to come back, and he's instantly going to be better than Rondale Moore. So, I won't even ask you which one of those two is going to have a better career. But between him and Josh Gordon, who's going to have the better season this year?
Right. So to be fair, you could say the same thing about Josh Gordon. Who's Josh Gordon again? We haven't seen the real Josh Gordon in a number of years now. Especially after that big breakout year that he had in Cleveland, where he led the league in receiving, where he almost had 2,000 yards receiving. So again, the same thing could be said about Josh Gordon as well. But to answer your question, I think Rashad Bateman does make the bigger impact this season in terms of those two receivers on their current teams. You look at the Kansas City Chiefs, and obviously they got Tyreek Hill. Obviously they got Travis Kelce, TE number one. So it's going to take, needless to say, and for him being out for so long, it's going to take him a little time to get up and running and get used to the NFL schedule and the NFL playing life, especially for a championship contender. They're not just going to throw Josh Gordon in right away just because he's Josh Gordon. His name doesn't have as much value as it did 4 or 5 years ago. Plus, whatever it was, I can't even remember the last time Josh Gordon had a big impact in the NFL, to be completely honest with you.
He kind of made some plays with the Patriots,
right,
or the Seahawks. Right. One of the teams he made, the Patriots. The Patriots, he was decent.
I think it was the Patriots, yeah.
The Seahawks, he kind of fell off, and then he got suspended, and now he's back. Mm-hmm. So, I don't know. If he's on the field, he's a warm body who can catch a pass. Maybe Patrick Mahomes elevates him. But I think what we've seen with the Ravens, the reason they aren't blowing everybody out is because they really have placed an emphasis on passing the ball. So, against the Lions, Hollywood Brown dropped 3 touchdown passes. So that game shouldn't have been close, but the Ravens have put an emphasis on throwing the ball. That could really, really help them in that case, but who knows if Bateman is going to be able to crack the field. I know they're his first-round pick, though, so they probably want him on the field, but I'm going to go Rashad Bateman over that. Rashad Bateman over Gordon.
Yeah. Same, especially just knowing the fact that I think Hollywood Brown – You mentioned the fact how many times he dropped touchdown passes just last week alone in Detroit. I think just knowing that, all right, Hollywood Brown, another former first-round pick wide receiver that the team had, you put him in the slot with both Sammy Watkins and Rashad Bateman on the outside, that's not only going to maximize Hollywood Brown's talent and what he can bring to the offense, just working in the slot, having other guys to worry about at wide receiver, but you're also getting your rookie, your first round draft pick from this year on the field. So that's a big plus. And, Josh Gordon, he's walking into a championship contending team. Not to say Rashad Bateman isn't, because he is. But the talent that the Chiefs have just in general, you're not going to be able to walk in here a week or two later be a starting wide receiver. I don't think that's the case at all for Josh Gordon. While I do think that Rashad Bateman, a week or two from now, I think we can see him starting opposite side of Sammy Watkins. So, again, to answer your question, I think Rashad Bateman this season has a bigger impact than Josh Gordon. And, from there on out, after this season, we'll see what happens with Josh Gordon. Can he stay on the field? Will he keep the off the field distractions away from his name, from his person? We'll see. It hasn't been done yet, so the safe answer, and I think the more logical answer is Rashad Bateman.
Yeah, I hope Josh Gordon can get it figured out, but we'll see. We're gonna do a rapid fire on this next one here. Richard Sherman has signed with the Buccaneers over under 1.5 picks against Mac Jones this Sunday.
For Richard Sherman alone, or the Buccaneers secondary or defense in general?
For Richard Sherman alone.
Oh, I'm gonna 1.5. I have to go under.
Yeah, that's tough.
Is he expected to play this week? I honestly have no idea.
Yeah,
is he really?
Wow. To play. He's been in good shape apparently in his time away from the game, so he's ready to play. He apparently picked off a pass in practice already.
Damn, talk about knocking the door down, man.
Yeah, he's
up and ready.
He's ready to go. He's motivated. So you gonna go with the under on 1.5?
I'm gonna go with the under. Yeah,
that's the safe bet. I was thinking it, but since you picked the under, I'm going over. I want to see him prosper, especially against the Patriots.
I'd love to see it, but so all right. Sorry. Let me see. So you said Richard Sherman, right?
Yeah, Richard Sherman.
1.5.
1.5.
Okay.
I don't know what the official odds are.
I'm gonna go under. Yeah. Right.
All right. Moving on to the next item on the news from around the league here. The Bears signed a purchase agreement for Arlington Park. And for those who don't know, that's a racetrack stadium in the northwest suburbs of the Chicago. Northwest suburbs of the Chicagoland area. So I think it starts 2023. But what has the Chicago media been saying about this and their potential exit from Soldier Field?
Well, it's been the news story of the week. I mean, if the Bears' plan was to take their focus off of the terrible performance against Cleveland last Sunday, that's kind of happened. It has happened. I mean, that's been the conversation all week. There really hasn't been too much surprise because we all knew that there was going to be some type of an announcement on this situation by September 30th. And, we obviously got that announcement that they at least agreed to purchase the why can't I think of the word? the land of Arlington in Arlington Heights. I don't know what to say, but so just the land and the next day, Lori Lightfoot, the mayor of the city of Chicago, she came out and it was a little bit more of a different tune than she had 4 or 5 months ago when she said, hey, you know what, the Chicago Bears need to focus on beating the Green Bay Packers than they do about leaving the city of Chicago. It was a little bit more of shit just got real. We want them to stay in Chicago. Obviously they bring a lot to the city in terms of sales, not only to the city of Chicago, but local restaurants and businesses in the city of Chicago. And if the Bears are out, then not only are you leaving the city hanging in all those tax purchases and restaurant, helping the local restaurants and stores out, but you're really hurting the city. So, I think she recognized that, and not to make this political, obviously, but it's been a huge conversation. It's been a huge talking point since this news came out. And, right now, even when this news started to trickle out 5-6 months ago, Tamaria, it never really seemed too real. All right, yeah, the Bears are interested, but how interested? Mm-hmm. The racetrack was going to be closed down after this summer, 100%. But, are the Bears really going to pony up enough to purchase the land? Are they really going to want their own stadium and not to mention leave the city of Chicago, as we've seen other NFL teams do, and they still keep that name. They're still going to be the Chicago Bears, even if they play out of Arlington Heights, Illinois. But I think this move by the Bears, it just kind of made it more realistic. Like, oh, you know what? Maybe the Bears organization, they are real. They are serious, and they want. You own your own. You own your own stadium. Your organization, the value goes up by I couldn't even tell you a percentage. I think well over 100%. And obviously they're already worth more than $1 billion, $2 billion.
Oh,
I don't know, but
see, yeah.
uh,
So the Bears didn't
yeah.
own Soldier Field.
Oh no, it's owned by the city of Chicago.
Oh, so then the Bears
Yep,
decided they wanted to own their own place, and so they bought that.
exactly.
Wow, they're playing chess, not checkers.
So I what I've heard is the big moving part was once sports betting was legalized in Illinois, the Bears wanted to bring in their own sports gambling facility, kind of, their own casino, I guess you could say. And the city of Chicago wasn't really with it, and that's what I've heard was a big moving part in this whole thing was not only the bitching and complaining of the playing surface. If you're an NFL fan, you probably know Soldier Field is arguably the worst playing surface in the NFL. And the Bears weren't able to do anything about it because they don't own the stadium. The city of Chicago does. The Chicago Parks and Recreation deal with that part of it. So
That's crazy,
yeah.
man. That's crazy that you know the Bears
So
just
when
wanted more
Kanye has
than.
his crew out there running, 12 Jeeps in circles, you know who to blame.
Yeah, yeah. He might buy Soldier Field. He might say, "Hey, I want this. This is mine." But yeah, that's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
It's really interesting to see if how everything shakes out because the Bears bought the land, so they're all signs point to them leaving. But who
Right.
knows if that'll be ready in time for them that 2023 or whenever that time comes for them.
Right.
We got
So
more on the
they're
Bears.
in agreement. Sorry, I don't want to drag it on too long, but they're in agreement with the city of Chicago to play at Soldier Field until I think it's 2033. But they can buy out as soon as I think 4 years from this year. So 2025.
So they'll be there for a bit. But
Right.
all right, we got more on the Bears coming up later. But Christian, last night, the Jags and the Bengals played on Thursday Night Football. It wasn't a game that many were excited about, but the Jags went into that game having lost 18 straight. And if they would have lost last night, which they did, then they're one game away from losing 20 in a row. All right, so when do the Jaguars get the next victory? And do you think Urban Meyer lasts the season? Their remaining schedule is Titans, Dolphins, Seahawks, Bills, Colts, 49ers, Falcons, Rams, Titans, Texans, Jets, Pats, Colts. Are they more likely to beat my Jets or are they more likely to beat the Falcons? Or the Colts? The Colts are terrible too.
Right. Yeah, I think their first opportunity is probably that Colts game, man. I mean, Colts have probably been one of the more disappointments this season. So, I mean, I think that's probably their first, real opportunity. I mean, it's so hard to say, though. I mean, last night they actually looked pretty damn good, especially in that first half. At halftime they were leading 14-0. I mean, it looked like Trevor Lawrence. He did have his best game as a professional, but I mean, especially to lose in that fashion, the way that they did. Game-winning field goal as time expires for Cincinnati. They lose 24-21. I mean, it's really a lot will be said about how they come out next week. You said they play Tennessee next week.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot will be said. I mean, both Urban Meyer and Trevor Lawrence spoke about the feeling in the locker room and just the overall mentality and how tough of a loss that this was because they really did play pretty damn good football, especially after losing their number one wide receiver DJ Shark three plays into the game. They still played a pretty overall really well played game, especially running back James Robinson. Carlos Hyde has had a pretty big impact on the offense the first 3 games. He was out yesterday with a shoulder injury. James Robinson took over. He had 2 rushing touchdowns, 95 yards, I believe it was. Trevor Lawrence looked really good on the move.
Yeah.
He had a rushing touchdown. He made plays through the air. Laviska Shenault stepped up at wide receiver. So I think a lot will be said how they come out next week against Tennessee. I know Tennessee's going to be without both Julio Jones and A.J. Brown this week against your New York Jets. Will they do the same thing next week against Jacksonville, or are they trying to preserve them already? I don't think so. Tennessee really needs to start, racking up the victories, and they by no means have their division won. But like I said, I think how they come out next week against a division opponent like Tennessee will say a lot. But that might be your Jets' first victory is the Jacksonville Jaguars.
God, I hope so. We'll talk more about that game coming up too here. So, next question I have for you is, how much has Joe Burrow impressed you? I know he threw 3 picks against the Bears, but realistically, they should be 4-0. They should be undefeated right now.
Right.
How much has he impressed you, and the Bengals for that matter?
Yeah, they've impressed me a lot, man. I mean, 3-1, I didn't see it coming, and especially to know that one loss came against the Chicago Bears, it almost seems like a fluke right now. I mean, they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars, they beat the Pittsburgh Steelers last week, then they dropped the game against Chicago, and then week 1 they beat the Minnesota Vikings in overtime, and that first game still leaves the most. I don't know. That first game still speaks the most to me. I mean, to beat a division opponent that's been beating the hell out of you for years and years, like Pittsburgh, was really impressive. But week number 1, especially for Joe Burrow, the way he came out, he was ready. And he tore his ACL not even a year removed from that performance. And he was ready. Jamar Chase, all the BS that's been spewed about him and his playing ability, dropping the passes in preseason, and to come out and have 4 touchdown receptions in the first 3 games of the season. He didn't have one last night, but he almost had 100 yards receiving. That chemistry is going to be one that's going to be, that duo right there will be talked about for, I don't know, 8 to 10 years. I think they're going to be a Cincinnati mainstay. So, not to get too carried on, or not to have you talking Cincinnati Bengals for 10 plus minutes, Tabario, but I got to mention the Cincinnati defense as well. I think Jesse Bates, I think you can make a really good argument that he's the best safety in the NFL. He was out yesterday due to injury. I don't think it's serious, though, so he should be back next week. But that defensive line is revamped, and I think they're the real deal. They acquired DJ Reader from Houston in free agency. They acquired Larry Ogunjobi from Cleveland in free agency. They acquired Trey Hendrickson in free agency from the New Orleans Saints. A revamped, young, very talented defensive line that, again, will be there to stay for another 3 to 4 years. I think this is a team that, I know this might sound a little hot take-ish. I think they could be a legit playoff team, and they could win their division. I mean, Pittsburgh seems to be on the down. Baltimore, I mean, I love Lamar Jackson, man, but he has not looked himself. He has not looked the same the first month of the season. And I expect him to struggle again this week against Denver on the road against the Vic Fangio defense. I think we might need to start talking about Cincinnati possibly winning their division, man. I think it's that good.
Yeah, I hate to be the wet blanket on the Cincinnati Bengals, because I like it when poor franchises actually come up and prosper. But next week they have the Packers. That's a loss. Then they play the Lions, who have been playing out of their mind, so they could theoretically lose that one. Then they have the Ravens, who they might be able to steal one if the Ravens are slacking on that one. But then I think this Ravens defense is going to be their worst defense that we've seen in years. Yeah. In years. It's a possibility, because they have not looked fearsome. But then on Halloween night, it's going to get spooky. But the Bengals are going to lose to my Jets. It's going to be a spooky game for the Bengals. They're going to lose to my Jets. Then you got the Browns, which they'll lose to. The Raiders, which they'll lose to. They'll beat the Steelers again. The Chargers, they'll lose to. The 49ers, they'll lose to. The Broncos, they'll lose to. They can take that game against the Ravens. Then they have the Chiefs and the Browns to close out. They got a tough schedule. probably one of the harder schedules in the league. But if they're legit and they can win the division, they'll come up and they'll show out. They won't be a team that gets rolled over.
So you mentioned they'll lose to the Raiders. I think they're the team. I think they're the number one team in the league that most people are on the fence on, and I'm included. Yeah. I'm still not 100% sure if I buy into the Raiders hype. Do you?
I buy in, man. They find a way to win. They might start off slow, but it's only for like 2 or 3 series, and then they click. They don't wait till the second half to get going. I know that once they were down, I think 14-0 against the Dolphins, he was like, the Raiders are frauds, and then they came back and won in dramatic fashion. But I think that game, was that in Vegas or was that in Miami?
That was in Vegas, right?
I think so. Regardless, they came back and they won. Out of the teams that are undefeated, I like them more than I like a team like the Denver Broncos. But I don't know. People are really hyping the Broncos, saying that they're Super Bowl contenders with that defense and Teddy Bridgewater, who doesn't turn the ball over. But we'll see how he does. We'll just see how he does. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Justin Fields and how he did in his debut. Of course, I can't let a podcast go by without talking about my Jets. And then we'll round it out with what's one game that we're interested in this week besides the Bucs, Patriots, Bears, Jets game. We'll be right back. All right, we're back. So, Christian, let's jump into it. This last weekend, it was Justin Fields' day. It was his debut against the Browns. It did not go as well as I think the city of Chicago and Justin Fields thought it would go. The offensive line was terrible. The play calling was suspect. He did miss an open receiver down the field, but he was running around for his life. It's kind of hard to set your feet and find a target down the field like that. But what did you take away from his debut when you had a chance to sit down and digest it?
It's still not totally digested. I'm not going to lie. I mean, that was awful. It was awful. And you know what? There is blame to go around for everybody, whether you talk about the offensive line, just terrible. Obviously, Justin Fields himself, I mean, there were some missed opportunities there. There were times where he held on the ball, you know, even if it was just 1 second too long. You know, that can make or break a play. And he got sacked 9 times. Not to say every time was his fault or every time was the offensive line's fault. The coaching staff has to make adjustments come halftime, in the very least. And the fact that they rolled out that type of game plan to start with in that game against that defense, yes, they've been struggling. They've been looking for sacks. Specifically their defensive line, they've been looking for it to getting going, and that's exactly what they did. Myles Garrett, 4.5 sacks, the Cleveland Browns record, sacked 9 times total. I think you said in the group chat earlier this week, I think the Jets had the record, and that was when Greg McElroy was the quarterback of the Jets, and he got sacked 10 times.
11.
So 11 times. Sorry. so he's too short of the NFL record. ESPN Radio in Chicago had Jay Cutler on the radio today. He was kind of talking about it, trying to give some type of advice, or, you know, he certainly has experience of getting sacked here in Chicago, and he got sacked 9 times and a half. I think it was a 2010 season, the year they went to the NFC Championship game. He got sacked 9 times in the first half by the New York Giants, and then he got ruled out of the game by halftime. And Caleb Haney had to come in and finish that game. So it's, you know, it's just not a good situation. I mean, and then the way Matt Nagy's going about it, meeting the media after the game, and really this entire week, we still don't know who's going to be starting at quarterback for the Chicago Bears this Sunday against the Detroit Lions. You know, all signs point to it's probably going to be Justin Fields. But Matt Nagy threw in the little nugget in the post-game press conference after that game against Cleveland. Oh, Justin hurt his hand on his very last play, the Bears' very last play of offense on Sunday, where he probably had no business really being out there. If he's going to be out there, just run the ball. The game was already out of reach. So Justin Fields hurts his hand. All signs point to him being all right. Like I said, he's probably going to start this Sunday, but he's yet to be committed to a quarterback this Sunday. or for this Sunday, and Andy Dalton returned to practice yesterday. So there's a small, glimmer of hope that maybe Andy Dalton will be the quarterback Sunday. But, I mean, really, it's just a big mystery. Huge disappointment.
So
He had I think it was 46 yards passing. Justin Fields had. He got sacked for 45 yards. So really, he had a net total of one yard passing against Cleveland, which was a huge disappointment. So it really couldn't have gone any worse than it did.
So here's a question for you. As a Bears fan, do you want him to go out and keep starting for the rest of the year, or would you rather have Andy Dalton in there so he can continue to learn, Justin Fields can continue to learn, and hopefully at the end of the season, Matt Nagy's let go, a different coach can come in and then maybe get better training for Justin Fields for when he eventually does start? Does that make sense? Like, do you want that scenario, or do you want to have him come out here, take his lumps, learn what not to do, what to do, get a feel for the game? Which way are you leaning?
It's funny how quickly things change, man, because you tell me week one, I want I want Justin Fields out there. A couple weeks later, get Andy Dalton back out there. And this coaching staff has been saying, Andy Dalton's our starter, Justin's just not ready yet. If Justin Fields isn't ready yet, then I don't want him to even be the backup quarterback. If you feel like he's not ready yet, then I don't want Andy Dalton being hurt being the reason why, all of a sudden Justin Fields is ready. No, you got Nick Foles on the roster for a reason. And I know they'll catch a bunch of backlash for throwing Nick Foles out there before Justin Fields. And trust me, I don't want to see Nick Foles out there. But if the reason why Justin Fields isn't starting is because he simply isn't ready, then I don't think he should be the backup then. I don't think because of injury to Andy Dalton that all of a sudden, you know what, maybe he is ready. I don't think so. So, again, week one, I'm like, you know what, especially seeing what we've seen in the preseason, the flashes of Justin Fields and what we hear, reports from training camp and practice in general, the positive plays and just the positivity in general, what Justin Fields brings, I don't think, like I said, week one, I'm all in. Justin Fields, let's go. Get Andy Dalton out of there. Now, I am starting to sing a different tune.
I'm going to put on my tinfoil conspiracy hat here and say, here's my conspiracy, right? Matt Nagy knows that no matter what happens, he's not going to win enough games in order to keep his job. Even if the Bears make the playoffs this year, I think he still let go by the end of the year. So he's thinking, I'm not going to put Justin Fields out there because he keeps saying, I need to do what's best for Justin Fields. I need to do what's best for Justin Fields, not myself, not the Chicago Bears, for Justin Fields, basically. So he knows what's best for Justin Fields is that Justin Fields does not go out there. He knows that offensive line is trash. He's like, I'm not going to put this kid out there knowing that he's going to be here after I'm gone. So I don't want him to go out there, get ruined, get hurt. So I'll roll the dice with Andy Dalton. And when Andy got hurt, I think the only reason Justin Fields went in was, first up, Nick Foles dressed that second game. He had to, but he couldn't put Nick Foles in because he knew the people of Chicago would revolt if he put Nick Foles in over Justin Fields. But he really doesn't. And my conspiracy theory is he really doesn't want to play Justin Fields because he knows him and Justin Fields are not going to be together once the season ends.
So the only thing I'll say, and I'll keep this quick, I know I go on and on about this shit, but I'll say this.
Podcast is what it's for.
So that does make sense in a way, but in a way it doesn't, because I don't think that Justin Fields would be here if it wasn't for Matt Nagy. And if Matt Nagy knows that this is, he's pretty much out of here. If that's what he's thinking, there's no way I'm coming back next year. I think then he's thinking to himself, you know what? Sorry, Andy. I know we had a promise. We had an agreement in the offseason. That's why you signed here. I mean, he said straight up, the only reason why I signed here in Chicago was because they told me I was going to be the starter. Sorry, Andy. Promises get broken, especially if my job's on the line, and I'm speaking for Matt Nagy, obviously. If my job's on the line and I just, I sold to Ryan Pace, I sold to this organization to trade up yet again in the first round for a quarterback, And this is going to be my only opportunity to work with the guy and actually have him in live action and have him on my team and be a part of, my team, the team that I'm coaching, then you know what? I need to get that kid out there. I don't care if, we think he's ready or not. If I'm in a win now situation, I need to have him out there. I don't care if I break him or not, because if I don't win today and if I don't win this season, then I'm out of here regardless. So if I break the kid, sorry, kid. I might have ruined your career, but you know what? I try to do what's best for, like you said, kind of the opposite of what you said.
Yeah.
I'm trying to stick around here,
I get it.
So if Matt Nagy was worried about his job, I think let's get the most out of Justin Fields now. Show the world that he's pro ready and that he could be a capable quarterback for the Chicago Bears.
Yeah, that's true. It was just my conspiracy theory, nothing I firmly believe. I just put my tinfoil hat on for a second. So
Right. I forgot you added that part.
It would be interesting to see how it all plays out, though. So if Justin Fields gets to start, how do you think he performs against the Lions?
Well, it can't get any worse. That's all. I'll keep it short and simple. I'll keep it short and simple.
Don't say that. He could throw 4 picks.
I know, man. I know. I'm probably cursing the damn team now at this point. But, no, honestly, I mean, you're at home. You're playing the Detroit Lions. I know they're a winless team, but you know what? The effort that they've been given, the gameplay in general that they've been playing at is not a winless. This isn't a Detroit Lions team that I think, oh, cool, we got the Detroit Lions on our schedule. That's an automatic win, like in years past when Matthew Stafford was their quarterback. Now they got Jared Goff. I think it's not a hot take to say that that's a downgrade at the quarterback position. But you know what? I'm not thinking that this is an automatic win, which is kind of scary. If I had to go one way or the other, I think somehow, some way, just talent-wise, that the Bears do pull this game out by a field goal, at least. But am I confident in saying that? No, I am not. The Detroit Lions should have gotten their first victory last week against the Baltimore Ravens. If it wasn't for Justin Tucker making a NFL record-breaking 66-yard field goal, not to mention the referees maybe missing, delay
a game.
Offensive call, delay a game on the Baltimore Ravens as well. But I won't go that far into it. And then the week prior, they played. It was only one half, and they didn't show up in the second half against Green Bay. But that first half, they had the lead at halftime, I believe, 17-14.
17-14, yeah. It looked like they were actually going to pull it off, too.
Right. And then week one, I mean, they got the game started out as a blowout against San Francisco, but they came back in the second half, and, final minute of the game, they were right there in it. They had an opportunity to pull that one out. They didn't. Again, they're winless, but it wouldn't shock me if somehow, some way, Detroit pulled this game out.
Yeah, I'm going to go 17-14 Bears. I think it's a tough game. It's a close game, but yeah, I think the Bears can pull this one out.
Geez, you can't give us a couple more points? Maybe like 23-20?
I wanted to.
17-14.
My score predictions have been a little on the high side since we started doing this podcast, and they have never hit. So I got to go low and see if I'm going too low. Set the anchor there, but yeah.
So I considered buying tickets for the game this weekend. I'm not going to lie. I was considering it before last Sunday's game. And then that performance happened against Cleveland, and it just ruled out any possibility of me even doing that.
I mean, but to be fair, the Lions don't have a Myles Garrett or a Jadeveon Clowney.
And they just Jamie Collins. So now you're talking me back into it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know who their pass rushers are, to be 100% honest with you, but I guess I'll find out this Sunday.
Come on, man. You don't know Julian Okwara?
Who? I hope I don't find out. But, all right. Let's move on to my Jets here. So, they had one of the worst games I've ever seen. And that's not hyperbole. It was really that terrible. It felt worse than the New England Patriots game when Zach Wilson threw 4 interceptions.
You said it was right behind that Browns and Bears game, man. I know. That's crazy.
Yeah, it was worse than that for me because the wide receivers were running. It was 3 wide receivers all in the same spot. So you got 3 wide receivers in the same area. You have 3 defenders in the same area, obviously. So it was not any separation going on. Zach Wilson had nowhere to throw the ball. There were so many drops this game on 4th down, on 3rd down that killed the drives. Corey Davis dropped. Zach Wilson rolled to his left through a beautiful laser. It was honestly that throw from his pro day that everybody went wild about. Zach Wilson threw that pass in a real-life game, hit Corey Davis right in the hands, and he dropped it. Patrick Surtain was on him, the rookie corner that Denver Broncos got, but that doesn't matter. It hit him right in the hands, and he dropped it. Killed the drive. Ty Johnson is a liability on offense. He should just run the ball. That's it. Pass him down. Get him out of there. I hashed a lot of this out in the last episode of the podcast, so I won't go super details here.
I heard it.
But you can probably hear the passion in my voice again here. But
absolutely. And I heard that at 4:30 in the morning yesterday driving into work.
Yeah, it probably fired you up a little bit. Hey, man,
a little bit.
The Jets got some problems, and so
yeah.
I will
Note
say,
to self, do not put Ty Johnson in pass protection or any receiving opportunities.
He is a liability. He's going to get Zach Wilson, David Card. So the wide receivers, I said, they're right on top of each other. The right side of the line, the right guard, Greg Van Roten, is a liability. He is the worst. Connor McGovern, not Greg Van Roten, the center, he was the one arguing with fans, and he threw Elijah Vera Tucker on the bus saying he didn't do his job. I did my job. So both of them need to go this offseason. I can't wait to do a mock draft where I draft that center from Iowa. Let me ask you real quick tomorrow. In the first round.
I don't want to take over your podcast by any means, but I got to ask you this because even in the last episode, I was thinking of this myself. And then even before I even listened to your last episode, I seen on Twitter just the backlash that Greg Van Roten was getting. And I remember him being, correct me if I'm wrong, but I remember him being at least halfway decent in Carolina. And it seemed like it was going to be a pretty big get for the New York Jets on their offensive line. And this seems to have been a move that has just been spoiled really quickly between his play last season and then, as you pointed out in the last podcast, the way he's speaking out on just his teammates, especially the offensive line alone. In the very least, you're going to back up your brothers, quote unquote, on the offensive line, your teammates, guys that are playing alongside of you. But even that, he's throwing those guys under the bus. I mean, this has gone sour really quick, and I just can't think that the Jets seen this coming.
Yeah.
Not to mention his play.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see once he gets cut at the end of this year, the stories that come out about this. I don't think that there are going to be any stories that come out about how the GM wasn't happy with this and how Robert Saleh talked about this. I got to go back and listen to his press conferences to see if he addressed that at all. But from what I've heard, because I didn't watch many Carolina Panther games when he was there, he was like at average or below average at best. He was not like a superstar player at right guard for the Panthers. But what we're getting on Sundays for the Jets is below average. It's well below average. He needs to go yesterday. In fact, if I was the Jets, I'd be looking to replace him mid-season because Zach Wilson won't survive with him and Connor McGovern playing next to each other. It just won't. So maybe what the Jets can do, and honestly, this is something that will probably piss somebody off, but can you put, when Mekhi Becton comes back and plays left tackle, can we slide George Fant to right guard or right tackle and maybe put Morgan Moses at right guard? We have to do something. We got to get those two out of there. I know you can't build Rome in a day, but a new center and a new right guard will help Zach Wilson's growth tremendously. And speaking of Zach Wilson's growth, speaking of wide receivers too, he's getting back Denzel Mims, who's been infamously inactive the first 3 games of the season for no reason at all besides he did something to get in the coach's doghouse. At first it was he had food poisoning, so he didn't practice, but now he definitely did something to make the Jets coaching staff upset, but we don't know what it is yet. Nobody's saying anything. It's all hush-hush. But with injuries to Jeff Smith, I'm sure everybody out there knows who the superstar Jeff Smith is. And my boy Elijah Moore, who has a concussion. They've actually both got concussions. They're both going to be out against the Tennessee Titans. We get back Jamison Crowder and Denzel Mims. So the Jets get 2 receivers. The Titans are going to lose A.J. Brown and Julio Jones for this game. So I don't know. I'm interested to see how this game goes. There's a lot of optimism that this can be a get-right game for the Jets because apparently the Titans' defense is suspect. So we'll see how it goes. I'm picking the Jets to lose 17-28 because they still have to figure out a way to contain this bum named Derrick Henry. And so do they do that? I don't know. I don't know if they have somebody. C.J. Mosley versus Derrick Henry is going to be a fantastic matchup. I think they'll both get the better of each other at least once. But, yeah, I think the Jets still lose this game. They drop to 0-4. And then we have to wait for the get-right game in the first W next Sunday against the Falcons in London at 8:30 a.m. How do you think this game's going to play out, Christian?
It might surprise you, man. I think this could truly be that get-right game for the Jets. I mean, they're at home. Tennessee's down their 2 top wide receivers. And then their defense, man, just like last season. I mean, you were able to say this the last couple of years now for Tennessee. And you would think with Mike Vrabel at head coach that in the very least their defense would be at least halfway decent. Instead, it's their offense that's carrying this team. And this defense, I think you can make an argument with them and, I don't know, maybe Seattle being the worst defenses in the NFL. And I think in the very least, if the Jets don't pull this game out, so I'm looking at my weekly pick'em sheet, and I got the Tennessee Titans pulling this game out. No breaking news, but I do think that the Jets have an opportunity to cover here. I think the line is set at 7.5. Last I checked, at least.
It
so
was
a little over a
7.5,
touchdown,
and it dropped to 6 with the news of Julio and AJ being out. So
all right, makes sense.
2 field goals.
Makes sense. So I could see this being a 6 or 7 point game. I could see the Jets keeping it close. I do think, Tabario, even in losing fashion, I think you're going to be happy with Zach Wilson's performance. I think between the fact that he's playing the Tennessee Titans' atrocious defense and the fact that he's getting Jamison Crowder back, I think that's going to be a huge get for this offense. We've seen big things out of Corey Davis week 1 against Carolina. I think he gets, if not back to that form, closer to that form, kind of closer to that number 1 wide receiver money that you guys are paying him there with the Jets. I think you're going to see a lot of bright spots, at least, in this offense. I think the offense starts to show quite a bit, and just like Trevor Lawrence, not that they're comparable or anything. I mean, I think for the last 6 or 7 years now, it feels like we knew Trevor Lawrence was going number 1 overall. But I do think, like Trevor Lawrence, you're going to start seeing things that you're like, all right, this is why this guy was drafted where he was drafted at, number 2 overall. And we do got a professional quarterback playing for the New York Football Jets.
You sound a little bit like the Jets head coach, Robert Saleh there. He said, this kid is going to show everybody eventually why he was the 2nd overall pick, because he has the talent. The talent is there. We just have to get it to show on game day and be consistent with that. But, he's had 3 starts, and he'll get it together. He has all the tools. It's just going to take some time. And honestly, nobody expected the Jets to be playoff contenders except me this year. So, 6.5 games was the over-under on what they would win. But what I think fans did expect was that they would be able to score some points. They might lose because of their defense, but they'd be able to score some points. The defense has been pretty phenomenal in the first 3 games. But they're going to need some help from the offense because they have a bend but don't break mentality, and they're going to just break if the offense never scores any points and they're always on the field.
It was refreshing to hear you give Quinnen Williams some props on your last episode.
Hey, he showed up. That's all I asked. Just do something. Just show up on the stat sheet. That's all I asked. And he showed up on the stat sheet and off the stat sheet. He was like, I don't want to talk about my stats when our team is losing. We have to be better. We're going to get better. Stick with us. We'll get this thing fixed. I appreciated that about him. I actually ordered his jersey.
Wait, you said you did order his jersey or you wanted to?
I said I did, but I want to. I did not order his jersey. If anybody, C.J. Mosley, I want to order that jersey because he lit Melvin Gordon up.
Yeah, he did.
It was a good hit.
But nothing will live up to number 92. Good old number 92, the other Williams brother, Leonard.
He's been a ghost too. He's been a ghost. I like to
say Lenny.
Oh, Lenny got paid a lot of money. Is not doing anything for the Giants. Hey, you know what?
I'm not gonna lie. I haven't heard anything about him this year.
Yeah, he disappeared. Hey, you know what's crazy? You know what I was thinking about? Let's say this one thing before we move on. Take a quick break. But the Jets have had stalwarts and with first-round picks that are out of the league. You got players coming back, playing longer than ever, getting tryouts, and these guys, nobody knows where they're at. They have no social media presence, nothing. Think of the names. Quentin Coples, where is he at? Do you even know who that is?
Oh, man. Now, that's a name from the past.
Quentin Coples.
Defensive end, I think North Carolina, I think?
Yes. Yep, North Carolina. Who knows where he is at? Then you have Muhammad Wilkerson.
Oh, pour one out for my guy.
We probably shouldn't do that because
former Green Bay Packer, Muhammad Wilkerson.
Oh yeah, see, didn't even know that. Didn't even know that. Who knows where he's at these days? And then the Louisville Slugger himself, Calvin Pryor.
Yeah, I don't even know if he was touched after he left the Jets.
So they traded him to the Browns.
Oh, that's right.
And then after that, no tryouts, no workouts, nothing. And then D. Milner.
Man. Yeah. Didn't he have a short stint with the Lions or someone like that?
I don't think he did. I don't think anybody touched him after he left the Jets. Yeah.
I mean, and he was the next sure thing. He was supposed to be the next, Revis left, I think.
Revis
shortly
got traded
before they drafted him, right?
Revis got traded to the Buccaneers.
Right.
Because he tore his ACL. And they traded him to the Buccaneers. And then with that pick, or one of the picks, they had 2 first-round picks that year. They took D. Milner and Sheldon Richardson. This is why the Jets are bad. They keep drafting players that nobody else wants in the first round with all their picks. Not even just the first round, with all their picks that nobody else wants. And Joe Douglas, he's a little iffy right now. Mekhi Becton's always hurt. Denzel Mims can't see the field. Jabari Zuniga, I bet you don't even know who that is.
I only know his last name because of Madden.
Yeah, he's on the practice squad, apparently. I couldn't name anybody else that he drafted.
The Florida defensive end that they cut,
that's
months
Jabari.
Into his rookie year.
Oh, yeah. That was Ja'Kai Polite, but I think that was McCagney.
Right.
I think that was Mike McCagney.
Oh, okay.
We won't put that one on Joe D.
You're right.
But then this year, he took Zach, obviously, in the second round, Elijah Moore, Elijah Vera Tucker. This round looks like this is get right round, this get right year, but I don't know. That first one was terrible. But we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to talk about the one game that we're excited to watch this year. And I have a very interesting question in the podcast, so don't skip this part. We'll be right back. All right, we're back, folks. So, Christian, besides the Patriots-Buccaneers game or the Bears, what's the one game that you're most interested in watching this week?
Let's see. I got the schedule out in front of me right now. You know what? I mentioned the game earlier. I think Baltimore and Denver is really going to be a good game. I really do. Not especially, but Lamar Jackson hasn't practiced all week. He's got some type of, I don't know if they're back spasm, some type of back injury, but that doesn't bode well for the Baltimore Ravens as they're on the road at Denver. Obviously the Broncos, that stadium, they're known for that thin air. And I think that's going to affect Lamar Jackson more so than any other quarterback would, as Lamar Jackson's the most active, the most likely to run the ball quarterback in the NFL, the most mobile quarterback in the NFL, and I think that that's going to hit him differently than any other quarterback in the NFL. And I think that going up against a Vic Fangio defense that has really been a big factor into this team being undefeated at this point, 3-0, and the fact that Teddy Bridgewater has been doing his thing, doesn't turn the ball over, doesn't do anything spectacular, but between Teddy Bridgewater, the receiving attack that they got in Cortland Sutton, he's been able to have a big impact off of his, I believe it was a season-ending ACL injury last year. He's had a couple of big games this year. I really like Noah Fant. I thought he would get off to a hotter start than he did this year, so that breakout game is still yet to come. This might be an opportunity for him. And then needless to say, Melvin Gordon has looked pretty fine himself this year. They got the rookie Javonte Williams as well. I think that's the game that I'm really eager to see. Denver, Baltimore. I think Denver's able to pull out. I don't know if it's an upset. According to Vegas, Denver is the underdog in this game, not by much. I think it's like 2.5 points, so a field goal. But looking at the schedule, besides that Tampa Bay, obviously, Tampa Bay and New England, the Tom Brady reunion to New England, I would have to say Baltimore and Denver, honorary selection, Seattle, San Francisco, I think will be pretty good. I think Seattle pulls off the upset on the road as well. And then I'm also going to keep an eye on – those are probably the two most intriguing games. I think Detroit and Dallas could be a really a sneaky good game as well.
I'm really surprised you didn't pick the Cardinals and Rams.
Like I said, I was trying to kind of stay away from the homerish pick. With that said, actually, on this sheet, I got the Rams pulling that one out on the road. I think just overall they're the stronger team, the more veteran-savvy team. They got a legit defense where for Arizona, I'm still kind of bullish on their defense. I still don't know how I feel about their defense. I know Chandler Jones has gotten off to a hot start, and I think I've expressed this in the group chat. He's the better of the two defensive ends. Between him and the highly paid free agent J.J. Watt, they probably should have invested that money into Chandler Jones, but they didn't. Unfortunately, I think he probably walks after this season, and maybe he goes to your New York Jets. Who knows? We'll see. But I think the Rams are the more established team, and I think they pull out the victory there at home.
Yeah, so I was going to pick the Rams-Cardinals game too, but I decided not to do that because really the game that interests me the most is going to be the Seattle and the 49ers. They're two teams that are coming off a loss that need a win pretty desperately. So that was going to be my pick, but after I'm thinking about it, I'm looking for some excitement, and I think that I'll get that in that Chargers-Raiders game. So that's going to be the pick for me. I can't wait to see that game come through.
Yeah, and I feel like this week alone, the Week 4 schedule, there's so many good games.
Yeah.
Even that Thursday night matchup, Jacksonville, Cincinnati, a lot of people are like, oh, man, why the hell are we having these two teams match up, primetime TV? Well, I'm pretty sure there's an NFL rule where at least one team has to have a Thursday night football game.
Yeah.
Maybe it's Monday night football. I think it's Thursday night football.
Yeah.
So, you know what? Let's get the teams that we're unsure of or the teams that we know are going to be bad out of the way early, where there's still excitement among at least their fan base. So, and you know what? I sent the text this morning. That game exceeded expectations, I think. It went down to the wire. Cincinnati won as time expired with a game-winning field goal. I don't think you could ask for too much more of that between a game from the Jaguars against the Bengals. So, that's what kicked off Week 4. And then looking at the schedule, I mean, there's a bunch of games here that should be pretty good games. As I mentioned, I think Detroit and Dallas should be a really good game. I think Indianapolis and Miami could go either way. Going down the line here, Arizona, the Rams. I do expect the Rams to pull that one off, but Arizona's been really hot to start off the year. Seattle, San Francisco could go either way. I think Baltimore, Denver could be a game As I mentioned, maybe the game of the week. I think that could be a really good game. Pittsburgh, Green Bay. I think Green Bay goes away with that one. Then obviously the excitement with Tampa Bay, and New England. And then Monday night should be another fantastic game. Las Vegas versus the Chargers.
Yeah, there's some really good games, and it's a good time to be an NFL fan. So, rapid fire here. Who's your pick to win that game for Sunday night? Does Tampa Bay go into New England and beat the only coach, the only team he hasn't beat before? Or does Bill Belichick teach him, like, hey, I'm still the big dog around here. I know everything about you. Who wins that game?
Let's not think too much about this. I think the Buccaneers. Tom Brady, and I'm sure Bill Belichick has a lot to prove in this game too. Tom Brady is going out there, and even if he's not thinking too much about this matchup, this reunion, this is his place that he played for 21 years or whatever it was. Even if he's not thinking that way, his teammates are. All right, let's win this one for Tom. Let's win this one for Brady. They know how much it means to him. You know, in the very least, this is the guy that brought the damn Super Bowl to Tampa Bay. So I'm not going to say that this is going to be like the Super Bowl for Tom Brady, but I think there's a chance that his teammates might be thinking that way. You know what? This guy helped us win a ring. Let's help him, pull off the upset in Gillette Stadium, in front of the fans that watched him win 6 Super Bowls in front of against the coach that didn't even want to meet with him face to face when he wanted to tell the organization that he was going to be leaving in the offseason. Bill Belichick instead said, hey, I don't have time to meet with you in person. We can do this conversation and phone call, via phone call. And that's how Bill Belichick found out that Tom Brady was leaving the New England Patriots. So I know it means a lot to Tom Brady. I know it means a ton. And even if he doesn't want to play it off that way, it's going to be interesting to see, the conversation, if there is a conversation or a handshake or a hug. I don't think there will be between him and Bill Belichick, but I think the team knows how much it's going to mean to him, and I think they're going to come out, and I think they're going to win by more than the spread. I think it's at 7 right now. I think it's at an even touchdown, and I think Tampa Bay wins this one by 13 plus. I think they come out from start to finish, and they have their way with the New England Patriots.
That's a lot of points, but regardless, I'm excited to watch it. We're going to wrap up with this, So a referee in the Louisville Florida State game got caught eating Skittles mid-game. So another referee was making a call, false start on the offense. And the camera catches dude not 5-10 feet behind him, just going to town on a bag of Skittles. So to close out this week's episode, what's the one snack that you would risk it all for?
Man, Skittles are too easy of a answer with this story, obviously, and then knowing Marshawn Lynch's historic story with Skittles, Taste the Rainbow. So honestly, dude, if I'm going with one snack, dude, give me like a 4. I think they call it a snack variety or snack size of wings. I'll go Buffalo Wild Wings, even though they've disappointed me the last couple times I've been there. I believe the last couple times you've been there as well, or ordered from there for Super Bowl festivities. I'll still ride with them on this one, though. I'll go the snack variety or the snack size of mild and Parmesan garlic wings. I think the snack size is like 5 wings. I'll go 3 Parmesan garlic, 2 mild with a side of ranch, and I'll run out on the play. I'll make the call, whatever. I'll dip the wing in some ranch and, take a bite or two. And, hey, penalty on the offense, offsides, 5-yard penalty, still first down, baby.
So still first down. So for me, my choice is going to be Reese's Peanut Butter Cups. Definitely.
So do the buffalo wings? I'm sorry. Do the chicken wings count as a snack? Did I break the law here? Did I break the rule?
Nah, because I would definitely risk it all for some wings too, but I don't know how you would just sit there like. So when we say risk it all, we mean like you are at your job, right? You are working, and what can you pull out of your pocket that you would just eat randomly in the middle of nowhere? So, for example, Mark Sanchez pulled out a hot dog while he was on the bench
Right.
mid game. This referee, this referee pulled out what did he pull out? He pulled out Skittles. So like, what's some like you can pull out your pocket midday and just go to town on, like a slice of pizza or something like that.
All right. Well, hey, you know what? Hey, you said it. Mark Sanchez pulled out a damn hot dog. I'm pretty sure I can manage my way to pull out a wing or two out of my pockets. And, we've seen Napoleon Dynamite in his class pull out some hash browns out of his pocket. So, you know what, damn it? I'm pretty sure I can manage a wing or two or three with a package of ranch as well. So I'm going to stick with my answer, damn it. Maybe, I don't feel bad anymore.
No reason to feel bad, man. But thank you all for listening to this episode of Not Your Average Tea Time. You can follow us on Twitter. I am at Average Tea Time. Christian, where can they find you?
At Chris Shanafelt, Chris, and then last name is spelled Shanafelt.
All right, everybody. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of Not Your Average Tea Time. We will talk to you again soon.